You're listening to the Tuesday Review. I'm Nathan, as always, joined by Callum. What's something that's made you happy this week, Callum?
Put me on the spot there.
On the spot, it's very low.
Oh, the recording, yeah.
Yeah, very low.
What's made me happy this week?
See, it's hard to think of something because everything's awful.
No, you know what? Drones. Just mysterious.
I mean, yeah, it's
mysterious drone sightings over America. Happy's the wrong word. I'm constantly curious.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like I'm engaged. I'm interested in this mysterious, this Tom Clancy stuff.
Right, we can't get too deep into the drones though, because the FBI might
we don't want to drone on.
No.
Yeah.
The FBI might knock in.
Yeah. But yeah. Oh, we're having some technical difficulties.
No, we're on the wrong sides. Everything's switched over.
Oh yeah.
So I had the soundboard plugged into the wrong thing on the computer. Yeah.
That's all right.
I was going to play the FBI open up.
Yeah. I was waiting for you to click it and it wasn't working.
Yeah. Never mind. We're in a different studio today for listeners at home, and it's throwing us off.
We're in our studio that we used to be in.
Yeah.
We used to be in this one all the time, and then we had to move to the other one because this one was not working, and now we're back, and so it's weird. Anyway, I'm James.
Yeah, how you going, James? What's something that's made you happy recently?
Well, the main thing is something we're going to talk about tonight: Nora Ephron movies and Christmas movies.
Yeah.
But to bring something else up, I watched all of a new HBO comedy series called The Franchise, which was very funny.
Oh yeah.
And that was it's like a parody of like the behind the scenes of like how Marvel, and superhero movies are made, and how the behind the scenes, the crew making the movie, and what a mess it is. That was really funny. And I've also been watching season 2 of My Adventures with Superman, which is a very enjoyable animated show. So
excellent.
Yeah. What about you, Nathan?
What's made me happy recently? I guess the same answer as last time. The Indiana Jones game keeps making me happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I throw in a wild card? What made me happy element?
Yeah.
The first poster for James Gunn's Superman was released.
Yeah.
And that kind of made me happy when I saw it. It had a very
I'm wearing my Superman t-shirt right now.
It's for listeners who might not have seen it, it's a very heroic looking Superman poster where he's shooting off into the sky, presumably. And then the tagline is "Look up." Or is it "Look up"?
I can't
don't
remember.
know.
Yeah.
Gee, I'll amend mine. I said it doesn't really make me happy so much as it terrifies me. The new trailer for 28 Years Later.
Oh, that looks good.
Yeah, well, it was written by Alex Garland, so...
Well, but he wrote the first... Oh, he wrote the first one.
Yeah, but what period, what era are we talking? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but now he's on thin ice.
It's the Ryan Johnson problem.
Yeah,
it's the
there was also that trailer for Warfare. Did you see that?
That's interesting, though.
Yeah, and I'm like, doesn't look bad.
Because it's all in real time?
Yeah.
Like, that's interesting.
Yeah, and it's based on true story or whatever.
So, it's a real-time movie is interesting. Always an interesting proposition.
But anyway,
moving on, it's, I guess the last, episode before the end of the year that will be in the studio. Because the next episode, we'll have to see, but we're busy Christmas Eve and then New Year's Eve, maybe. We don't know what's going to happen. So this is the last time we'll be live, probably for the year.
Probably,
But, so, Merry Christmas for all our live listeners.
Mm-hmm.
And a Happy New Year. And also, Spellwoods Kickstarter is still active.
Yep.
Please go and support Spellwoods.
So you've got till December 21st to support Spellwoods, which was a really cool game. We played at PAX and we talked to the creator, Tien, and that interview was last main episode.
Yeah.
So 2 episodes ago, I guess, chronologically. And the video of the interview is also up on YouTube, so you can watch that.
And we'd also like to extend a little thank you to all the guests we've had in the studio this year.
100%.
Helping us out. Matt Myram,
Been a big year.
Jeanette Coppolino,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone else I'm blanking. I don't think there was anyone at the first half of the year.
Jack Squarepeg.
Jack
Squarepeg, yeah.
Jack, yeah. We had Kevin and Tien on Zoom.
Yeah.
Do we have anyone else on Zoom?
No, I don't think
anyone. If we're missing out on anyone, we apologise.
We hate you.
You know who you are.
And a big thank you to the listeners.
And a big thank you to the listeners.
All the cousins out there.
Yeah. Moving on, I guess, is our penultimate Christmas episode.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been watching Nora Ephron movies to begin with.
Yeah, so I've been Nora Ephron's come up on this show a lot over the years, but especially over the last few weeks, she's been recurring in conversation. And the last couple of weeks, last few episodes actually, I've been like hinting at, don't worry, we're gonna get to that. We got more coming up. So yeah, we thought we'll just go sort of Nora Ephron and then sort of transition into our Christmas sort of movies. Should we start with My Blue Heaven?
Yeah. Let's start with My Blue Heaven. So Steve Martin.
Yeah. So
Rick Moranis.
Yeah, I mean,
based on the life of Henry Hill.
That's the thing is, so Nora Ephron was married to Nick Pileggi, who wrote the book about Henry Hill, which Goodfellas was based on, and I think he wrote the screenplay Goodfellas as well. And so when Henry Hill would call the house to talk to Nick, and if Nick wasn't there, he'd talk to Nora. And while Goodfellas came out in 1990, and she also wrote a movie loosely based on Henry Hill's life, which also came out in 1990, called My Blue Heaven, which is almost like a sequel to Goodfellas, where after Henry Hill goes into witness protection for testifying against the mob, and he's like living his life, away, anonymously away from crime. And she wrote like a comedy based on that, where he's this like mobster who moves to this small town, gets a new name, new identity, and it's his like wacky hijinks as he keeps committing crimes, but the local
accidents.
Yeah, what are you like trying to help? This actually, me and Nathan were talking about this the other day, because there's a bit where Joan Cusack plays like the prosecutor, like the DA, and she's interrogating him for stealing a car, and he's like, oh, my friend was supposed to leave me the keys, but he forgot, so I had to hotwire it. And she's like, how do you know how to hotwire? And he's like, I was in the army, like everyone's always losing their keys. I had to hotwire all the like jeeps and trucks, and he's like, the army wouldn't move without me. And he's like, what does he say? He's like, I had to get the ambulances.
Oh yeah, for the
invalids for the dialysis machines. And then he puts his toothpick in his mouth. And he's like, it's the funniest thing. So good.
It's so good. Also, like when in the supermarket, it's like, have you got any arugula? Is it? It's like, it's a vegetable.
Yeah, it's like, what? Yeah, the guy in the supermarket doesn't know. It's a vegetable.
And then he has his cat. His cat's name is Funkulo.
So good. Yeah, but like I'd seen the movie years ago, and I don't think I even knew or remembered that it was a Nora Ephron movie. And I remember liking it, but not thinking it was great. And I rewatched it, and I still don't think it's a great movie. It's just so enjoyable, and
it's different.
Yeah, I mean, it's also from a time where you've got someone like, the cast is just incredible. You've got Steve Martin, Rick Moranis, Joan Cusack. Who else?
We're blanking.
I'm blanking out. Yeah,
that's all right.
But it's like a great cast, and you just like, it's just fun to see them interact, and you got like, lots of jokes, and it's a kind of
also the costume designs were nice in it as well. I like the suits.
Yeah. He takes Rick Moranis shopping. Yeah, they get like the woggy gangster suit. Yeah, good times. Carol Kane, she's in it as well, isn't she?
Yes.
That's I have criticisms with some of the elements of the script. Like they introduce Carol Kane, and there's like, and then she's like, okay, and then she gone, and then the cop lady come, and I was just like, and then it just wraps up really nicely at the end. But it's just a really fun, entertaining,
colourful, bright looking film.
Yeah, kind of wholesome, even though it's about a like gangster.
I watched it before we came to the radio. It's very wholesome.
Yeah,
to the show. I mean, it's very wholesome.
Yeah, like it's not. It's not a dark comedy. It's very light.
Yeah.
It's good.
But I think that's very much Nora Ephron. I always say it's 50-50 whether I say Ephron or Ephron.
It's N with
at least I'm not saying Enron, like the company. She doesn't really deal in like extremely heavy themes. I mean, she can, but it's like
she wrote the screenplay for Silkwood, which I still haven't seen, but is one that's very high on my list. The list is so huge that being high on the list doesn't really mean anything, But that was like a serious drama. But yeah, mostly she does romantic kind of comedies.
Yeah, and she has that kind of levity. So.
Yeah. There's a whimsical.
Whimsical. That's the exact word I was looking for. Yeah,
to a lot of her thing. Yeah, which I guess leads us into Sleepless in Seattle, which this one I had never seen. You guys have brought up on the show.
Right. So before we start this, I want to know your ranking of the classic three.
The Meg Ryan trilogy.
Well, yeah. When Harry Met Sally is obviously the GOAT.
Yeah.
No contest.
But how do you rate the other two?
I watched Sleepless in Seattle, and then I watched You've Got Mail, and I watched Sleepless and I really liked it, and then I watched You've Got Mail. I'm like, I think I like Sleepless better. But by the time I got to the end of You've Got Mail, I was like, I can't decide.
Yeah.
I think Sleepless and You've Got Mail at the moment are tied.
Yeah.
I can't really decide. I think I'll have to rewatch in the future before I
It's interesting. So they're all incredible films.
Mm.
But to me, it's, of course, Harry and Sally at the top. You've Got Mail second, and Sleepless third. That doesn't mean any one of them are necessarily better than the other.
Yeah.
That's
when Harry Met Sally is objectively the best.
Oh, no, I get it. You know what I mean.
It's the Holy Trinity, though. Yeah. It's like you kind of, they're all really good.
Yeah, so anyway, please continue, James.
Yeah. And if someone had them different, if someone said Sleepless is the best, then You've Got Mail, and then When Harry Met Sally, it's like, I wouldn't even argue. Even though I think When Harry Met Sally is the best.
It's like, like people always say Chinatown has the best script of all time. Like, that's like a thing.
Before, yeah.
Yeah, like I think that When Harry Met Sally is the greatest rom-com script of all time.
We've talked about it before. I think When Harry Met Sally is probably in the top 50 greatest films of all time.
Yeah. Yeah, when we talked about it a few weeks ago, it's easily the best rom-com ever.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like it's like the Mount Olympus of screenplays for rom-com.
Yeah. I mean, she's just such a strong writer that it doesn't matter any of her. Yeah, it's just engaging, and
I think as we've talked about before, last time we talked about You've Got Mail. You've Got Mail has the problem that the others don't.
We'll get that because first I watched Sleepless. Yeah. For some reason, in my mind, I had swapped the two where You've Got Mail came out first and then Sleepless. I don't know why I thought that. That's because obviously You've Got Mail came out later because it's about email.
Yeah.
And anyway, so but I watched. I watched Sleepless first. As I should have, because it's chronologically. For some reason, I thought the chronology.
And man, he looks young in that, doesn't he, Tom Hanks?
Yeah,
not as young as he looks in Philadelphia.
No, I guess because I've seen him in Big. He's younger in that. Yeah. He was famous before Sleepless, so it's not like I haven't seen him young. Yeah. And he still looks pretty good now. So
yeah.
So I watched Sleepless first. Which came out in 93, I think.
So. And then what? You've Got Mail was 96?
98.
98, okay.
Yeah, because,
Yeah, 98,
And I also completely forgot that I had Sleepless in Seattle on 4K.
Nice.
Which
was an unexpected surprise?
Yeah, because I bought this, I think it was Columbia, a Columbia Classics box set with a bunch of different 4Ks, and I forgot that it was in there.
Nice.
And I was like, ooh, great surprise, especially now I was going to watch it. So I watched that first, and I really liked it.
Disc review. Did it look nice?
It looked really good. Yeah. Not as good as the When Harry Met Sally, but that movie was probably... they're shot differently.
But also I'm not saying one movie would get more love than the other, but I'm guessing maybe When Harry Met Sally... It's like those things when you're remastering a classic, the expectations are higher.
It's also who did the
work,
the restoration work, and who what studio owns what? Because When Harry Met Sally one you can only get in Germany, whereas where I got it, whereas the Columbia one.
Was Sleepless re-released as a standalone 4K, or was it just bundled in with the Columbia set?
I think it's just in the bundle.
Yeah,
because maybe they would have done a medium grade restoration on all the ones in the Columbia set, but then for a single restoration Harry Met Sally, they might have put the juice on.
No, I think I'm not saying it was a bad restoration.
No.
It's very good.
Which is frustrating because you can only buy Sleepless in Seattle standalone on DVD.
Yeah. Well, at least the Blu-ray.
No, at least from local retailers. No, you can't.
Oh well, local retailers.
I haven't gone, searching for importing.
You watched Sleepless.
Anyway, Sleepless. Yeah, I really liked it. Obviously, it's a movie that's so famous that I knew a lot of. I knew a lot about. I knew the basic plot.
Yeah, there's references to it.
I knew a lot of the lines. I had seen clips. I'd seen lots of references in other shows and movies and whatever. But yeah, watching the movie, it's just one of those classic rom-coms that, other than When Harry Met Sally, it's probably like the quintessential, if you need to show someone a rom-com, this is a good example. Although, then again, the two main characters spend a lot of the movie apart.
Yeah, which is interesting.
Yeah.
I do like in Sleepless in Seattle how they kind of almost subvert some of the dynamics, because they have like Jonah and Jessica having almost like a similar arc where the parents don't.
Yeah.
But obviously they're just friends. But it's kind of, you've got some of those scenes that wouldn't in another movie be based on the main characters.
Yeah.
Instead, it's like the kids planning and plotting and coming up with schemes.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, it has those kind of somewhat flip dynamics.
I think what makes it interesting is like what separates it
and the women
from,
doing the chasing, not the men.
Yeah, what separates it from You've Got Mail and When Harry Met Sally is it's not about the courtship process.
No,
it's about the idea of attraction from afar.
Yeah,
like how can you really know a person? And it's even in the script they talk about magic, or when our hands touched, it was like magic.
I do like in Sleepless in Seattle, you've got Meg Ryan doing the creeping, and then you've got you've got Tom Hanks doing the creeping.
But it's about the idea of like how can you be attached to someone when you've never met them. It's kind of weird when you talk about it out loud.
I mean, it's also about how do you move forward when you've had your happily ever after. How do you kind of and like I said in my Letterboxd review, I really love the fact that basically the theme of the movie is the Frank Sinatra In the Wee Small Hours of the Morning. That's like his heartbreak album after he got divorced. And so it's just like a heartache kind of album. And like that theme plays throughout the whole movie, and it kind of sets the tone for like Tom Hanks's character. Is it Sam?
Yeah, Samuel.
I think so.
And he's kind of just like,
Beckett?
how does he...
No.
I think it's Sam. But anyway, it's like, how does he move forward with his life with this kid trying to find a romantic connection?
And she's already found the perfect partner, and it's
on
like,
paper,
on paper, but it's like it's missing the magic.
That's also another connecting theme between Sleepless in Seattle and You've Got Mail. Meg Ryan in both movies has the perfect partner on paper.
I feel like that's a lot of magic. That's a lot of rom-coms. It's like you've got your partner, whether they're a boring person or whether they're like abusive or whatever, and then you've got the sort of romantic interest where it's like I think it's a trope that doesn't always work, especially when the guy is, or it's usually the guy, like the girl has and then meets a better guy.
Usually played by Zac Efron. Not so much now, but back in the day.
Well, yeah, I mean,
he's moved on now.
Back in the day, it was Tom Hanks.
And then Matthew McConaughey, then Zac Efron. And Ryan Gosling a little bit in between.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's an interesting... I think Sleepless in Seattle is also interesting because it's a movie about rom-coms. Like, they watch rom-coms on TV, and the women in the movie talk about like the ideals they have that come from media they see. What's the line? You don't want to be in love, you want to be in love in a movie? Yeah. Something like that, Rosie O'Donnell, I think. And like... Yeah, so it's kind of like it's a quintessential rom-com that's already sort of about rom-coms and based on the history of previous rom-coms. So like it boils it down into a sort of quintessential rom-com, which is why I said it's one of the quintessential rom-coms. But also, it does something different with it, with how the characters aren't sort of together a lot of the time, and it does deal with grief and what can you get out of life after you think you've that's all there is.
Also, caveat to listeners, we are going to enjoy this movie because, it's about radio broadcasting as well.
That's it. What would we be? Because you got Sleepless in Seattle, which I'm not sure if it's the name of the program or
that's the name of Sam. That's the name they attribute to Sam.
Yeah, the radio host gives.
I was going to look up his surname,
nicknames.
but I'm pretty sure I need a new phone because I have a terrible time trying to connect to the internet.
Might just be the internet or using your data.
Even at home, I've got anyway.
We're not saying Apple's still doing planned obsolescence, but.
Yeah, that's it. A new phone comes out, suddenly my phone's a brick now. But that's fine. It is what it is.
What would we be? You got Sleepless in Seattle. What would we be? The melancholy of Melbourne. We're like, call us in. Tell us your frustrations. We're not experts.
No. Sleepless in Seattle is the name that they give Tom Hanks' character.
But it gave me a good idea. What would we call it? Because if you're on the radio and be like, what would we be? Call us with your problems. We can't really help you, but we'll listen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a train of thought. It's gone.
Yeah, I don't know what I was going to say either.
But let me try and quickly recover.
If you can't remember, we'll move on.
What I find so interesting about it is that Tom Hanks, his character, Sam, who wants pretty much nothing.
Sam Baldwin.
I said Beckett. I was close enough. He wants nothing to do with the situation. It's his son who wants to get the two together because his son's like, oh, you're meant to be together because of some intuition his son has for some reason. Plot point. Just to drive the story forward.
Maybe his son has The Shining.
Maybe.
That's an interesting. Hang on, write that down. we'll revisit.
Rom-com with The Shining.
But yeah, what I find so interesting is the fact that like the characters kind of want nothing. I mean, Meg Ryan's character wants everything to do with Sam. But it's kind of this one-sided thing where, like Nathan was saying, the woman's chasing the man, which is a subversion.
But she's also, she's chasing the idea of the man.
Also, this movie features the Baltimore Sun, which is in The Wire, so props to them.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So she comes from the hard streets of Boston.
It's also, like it's one of the we talk about a lot. It's a rom-com that wouldn't get made today. Just in terms of like production value. Like there's a shot at the beginning of the movie where Tom Hanks' wife passes away and they're at the funeral. And there's, people at
like
the funeral.
The wide shot.
Yeah, and the camera pulls back and you just see Chicago in the background. Like this, and it's just like,
gorgeous.
Wow, they spent that much time and money just for that one shot. You'd never get that today. Yeah. And if you did, it would be like an ugly drone shot.
Yeah, or CG Chicago.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with drone shots. It's just the way they light them, the way they color grade movies now. And this movie would go straight to Netflix or whatever, and it'd have like Lindsay Lohan and Chad Michael Murray and other washed up stars. No offense to them, they're great, but like you know what I mean.
It's I know what you mean.
This is a movie you could see on the biggest screen with a huge audience. And it would be like, it's cinema.
Oh, yeah.
We were trying to explain this to Alan. It's like rom-coms used to be movies, real
that's
cinema.
The thing, right? Like
now they're just content.
You talk to
the hard C word, content.
Yeah, now they're all, how there used to be rom-coms on the movies and then made-for-TV Hallmark rom-coms. Yeah. Now everything is a made-for-TV Hallmark
that's right.
rom-com.
You talk to people like, co-host Alan, who can't be here this week, and he just thinks rom-coms are for chicks. Like every rom-com is automatically a chick flick. But that's not true.
No.
He's also Mr. Toxic Masculinity, which we've discussed before. But
you mentioned the production values in this film. It also has some slick editing. There's that scene where you see Sam's dead wife come into the shot towards the beginning. And I was like, wow, that was a smooth cut. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I think the same goes for You've Got Mail as well. Like the New York City, they're using the streets.
Oh yeah, like New York's a character.
There's also people and
like they've got the
bookstore looks amazing.
Bookstore, like they've built sets, and buildings and
building fronts.
It
looks great.
It always looks so nice. You've got the boats with the fox and the fox 2, and like
you're
building the illusion that these places are real, these people are real.
It feels.
Like the shop around the corner, like they,
it feels real because it is real, because they took the time and effort to film in locations or to build certain things. Like, and it's just they're shot better and they sound better and they're edited better than they would be now. yeah, so then I watched You've Got Mail as well, which again,
and you had never seen this one before?
And I'd never seen this one either. Yeah, the only one I'd seen is Harry Met Sally and My Blue Heaven as well, but that's not part of the like rom-com trinity. So I watched it, and again, this is one that's so famous, and that I knew all the lines, and I knew the other homages and references in other media and whatever, but I'd never seen it. Actually, before I watched this, I found out it was a remake of
it's a
The
remake,
Shop Around the Corner.
It's which is also a remake of a play, like it's an adaptation of a play.
Yeah, an adaptation of a play. Yeah. So
the movie does get a slight pass for some of its elements.
Yeah, but I was like, oh, Shop Around the Corner, I want to watch that first.
Yeah.
Because I had no idea it was based on that. So I watched Shop Around the Corner, which is Jimmy Stewart and Margaret Sullivan. Great movie.
I've never seen it.
We've got it. No, we've got it. I haven't seen it though.
It's a black and white 1940 like rom-com.
Yeah, it's one of the classics. Yeah.
The structure is similar, but mostly it's different. There's only a couple scenes that are like directly the same, but even then they're not really the same. So yeah, it's like it's not really a remake. It's just
a reinterpretation.
Yeah, it's inspired by but yeah, that was a great movie. I highly recommend Shop Around the Corner. And then You've Got Mail. Meg Ryan's little bookstore is called The Shop Around the Corner, which is obviously a reference to that. And yeah, instead of writing letters to each other, they write emails, which was the new thing at the time, I guess.
How quaint.
Yeah. I just
like now people just when she
logs
TikToks.
she logs onto America Online, and it's got the dial tone, and
I love that though.
Yeah, and then it says welcome, and I was like got hit with this nostalgia.
Yeah, bam. Yeah.
See, but kids watching these days would think that's not exciting. That doesn't give you the dopamine hit, but it did back in the day, kids.
Well, he had no choice.
Yeah, if it was going to be made today, be the MSN tone.
No, MSN. Yeah, but MSN tone would be like for when we were.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
like nostalgia, like MSN tone. Bam.
Yeah. It's again, it's just such a well-made movie. Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks have such great chemistry. This is also one where it's different from the original Shop Around the Corner and some other rom-coms where they're both in relationships.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's just a trope of the genre, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes their partner's great, sometimes they're the worst. This one's an interesting one where it's like you can see why they're with their partner, and the partners aren't awful or anything. And then it just kind of naturally falls apart.
Such great dialogue.
And
there's no villains.
And it's like, I guess it's convenient for the plot that it's like, okay, that, everyone's great and we can all move along. But it just feels natural. I don't know how Nora Ephron does it.
She is the goat.
Yeah. It's like she just knows how. And especially this comes to a huge criticism of the movie, which is that Meg Ryan's character owns this little bookshop, and then Tom Hanks is this rich guy who is one of the owners of this massive like Barnes & Noble, Borders, like chain bookstore. And he moves into the neighborhood and puts her out of business. And in any other movie, in any other world, like that would be the most awful thing. But by the end of the movie, you're like, you want them to be together. And Meg Ryan's character is like, you put me out of business, but I still love you. And you believe it.
Yeah.
No, that's a testament. She pulls the wool over your eyes, doesn't she?
That's a testament to Nora Ephron's greatness.
Yeah, and it's like watching this in 98, that's one thing. Capitalism has sucked forever and sucked back then. But watching it now, and you're just like,
I still buy it.
Yeah, Tom Hanks, I would burn that bookstore down and be like
we will burn it down, and then we're like, but I still want to be your friend because it's just business. Yeah, it's not personal.
Like, eat the... But they say that in the movie. It's like business, like it's personal to me. But it's like, it's like I hate capitalism. It's like Tom Hanks's character is someone I would want to kick in the head. But yeah,
but he hangs out with Dave Chappelle, so it's like
and it's just like
pros and cons.
I don't know. It just works at the end.
Yeah, it's because the dialogue is so sharp on that one.
Yeah.
But also like it's an interesting dynamic because Tom Hanks' character is kind of a dick to her because he doesn't realize, at least he pretends to not realize, I should say, that they're communicating through email because he figures it out before she does, I believe.
Yeah. But even that's handled pretty well.
But then it's this interesting thing where like once his life begins to fall apart, he opens himself up emotionally. That allows him to maybe come to the conclusion that he wants to get to know her better. And then once they get to know each other better, things just naturally fall into place, like you were saying. It's that act of once they treat each other like human, well, I should say, once he treats her like a human being.
Yeah.
Everything kind of starts to flow better.
He definitely softens as a character, and that happens in a lot of movies and a lot of rom-coms. But the fact that he's still this rich guy who put her out of business is such a huge thing that could have overshadowed the movie, and does. You know, it's still something that is in the back of your head.
Every now and again on, online spaces, specifically film Twitter, you'll get these people who stand up on their high horses and say, you've got males bad because power imbalances. And I'm like, you know what? You're right.
Yeah.
It's still a great film.
Yeah, and that's even on Letterboxd. It's like there's so many reviews of like, look, we can acknowledge that this is crazy. Yeah. But at the end of the day, when they meet at the end, and she's like, "I wanted it to be you," and you're like, "Damn it, Nora Ephron."
I think the last time I watched it, I rewatched it. He comes
around the corner with the dog, and she's like,
"Brinkley." I watched it. I watched it last night, but the last time I rewatched it, so not previously, the time before that, I had a more negative reaction to some of those kind of movie decisions. And when I rewatched it recently, I didn't. I was like, okay, I'm watching this movie again. And I'm not seeing him do anything overtly negative in emotional manipulation. His only crime is that he knows the situation and she doesn't.
If you're like, I was watching it and I knew the basic plot and I knew like where it was going. And it's like, with that in mind, even watching it, it's like he never directly tries to shut her down or whatever. It's just he
never manipulates her. He's just aware of something she's not.
Yeah.
Which can be a problem, but it's handled, as you said, it's handled still so well.
Yeah, and he's like never trying to push her in a certain way. He's just like...
He doesn't use that information for evil.
Like Callum said, he's like, he softens as a character and he becomes a better person. And by doing that, even though he knows something she doesn't, it's like he's just being a good friend to her.
Yeah. Yeah. And then he comes out at the end, spoiler alert, I guess, for 1998. And he comes out at the end and be like, it was me all along. And
yeah.
I do like the scenes where, who's her friend? One of her friends is like, what if he's fat and all this? And she's like, I don't care.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was a nice scene.
In that movie, we'd all be George.
Oh, Steve Zahn?
Yeah.
Shout out to Steve Zahn. He's awesome.
Although I didn't like it when he was rubbing it in his co-worker's face that he had like a 6-bedroom apartment for like
rent control.
Yeah, when she's like, I might be homeless, and he's just like,
I do I think this is just Steve Zahn being an awesome actor, but the way the co-worker is like, don't rub that in, that's awful. And the look on his face, he's like, that's not what I meant. He doesn't say it, but he's like, that's not what I meant.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, screw this, I'm leaving. And he leaves.
Yeah.
I do like the scene on the boat when it's Tom Hanks' character and his dad.
Oh, yeah.
That's a nice scene where he keeps listing off the people and Tom Hanks like, that was the nanny.
Oh, yeah.
That was also
all the women his father has married,
I like that scene a lot.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So
it's just the banter and the dialogue, and
she's the master of that specific type of dialogue.
Yeah. And also again, like Rob Reiner directed When Harry Met Sally, but she directed and wrote You've Got Mail and Sleepless. And they're also well shot, well directed, well edited movies.
Yeah.
And they're movies, like proper like. Yeah, so
they are all-time classics, and if you're if you're into or enjoy films, you should watch them.
Mm-hmm.
They are important movies in the canon.
Yeah.
Everyone should, at least give these movies a chance.
Yeah, especially if, someone like me or you get an idea of because they're so famous and you've seen them, you've seen bits of them or you've seen them referenced. So you get an idea of them and you're like, I don't need to watch that. But
no, Nora Ephron is someone who makes us believe in magic.
Yeah.
Like in a way. It's like
believe in love.
Believe in love, that's it.
Which
and they're all different. Like all of this trilogy you're talking about, they're all kind of different, like in the way that they approach love.
Yeah, for someone who made who made 3 of the best rom-coms, they're all different, and 2 of which star Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
It's like they're all different in their own ways.
Yeah, Meg Ryan was the goat of leading kind of rom-com.
Leading lady. Yeah.
She was like the modern Grace Kelly.
Yeah.
Maybe not Audrey Hepburn.
Yeah.
Which brings us to The best of Nora Ephron's movies.
Hold on. Before we move on, we should go to a very quick break.
Keep you in suspense.
Yes, keep the audience in suspense. We'll be right back after these quick messages. You're back on the Tuesday Review, discussing Nora Ephron and Christmas films. I think where Callum was going was moving into another Nora Ephron film, Mixed Nuts.
Now, this is one that's not as...
it's not in the Holy Trinity.
Highly regarded as a lot of her other films are.
I think it's also a bit unfairly maligned.
I like it. I liked it as much as My Blue Heaven.
It's like I said, My Blue Heaven isn't great, but it's one of those movies that just, it feels nice, like it's fun and it's funny. I think Mixed Nuts is similar, where it's not great, it's a bit messy, but
I know why you don't like it.
It's got a great cast.
It's got Adam Sandler in it, so that docks 2 stars off it for James.
No. See, you guys misunderstand me. I'm a massive Adam Sandler fan. My problem is you guys like him to a fault. Like it's like the Tom Cruise thing where it's like you guys insist that like The Mummy is a good movie because Tom Cruise is in it when it's an awful movie.
Have you seen it?
Yes. It was awful. I wanted to stab my eyes out after it. It was the worst.
We're all entitled to our opinions.
But yeah, it's like I love Adam Sandler, like early Adam Sandler stuff, like obviously his drama stuff, which we've talked about. But you guys are just like any slop he puts onto Netflix, you guys are like jerking it off. That's my problem. And especially when he walks in and he's just, this is like 1994, so this is still early SNL. Adam Sandler.
This is like SNL era.
Yeah, SNL. Yeah. And he walks out and he's like, he's just doing, he's like a parody of Adam Sandler. Yeah, he's like, and I'm just like, oh wow, he's just doing whatever.
He's just going out.
No, but I had fun.
I do like his arc in the movie though.
Yeah, that was good. But yeah, similar to My Blue Heaven, it's a bit, it's like not a great movie, but it's just the cast is so great and it's just funny.
I think the difference is,
I think
this movie, most of the cast are terrible people, self-absorbed people. Most of the cast. And I think it's kind of like you're watching them fail at being good people over Christmas for most of the runtime, and some of them learn lessons, by the end of the film, right, in a traditional Christmas fashion. I think it is unfairly hated on, and I think in a lot of ways it's ahead of its time.
Yeah, a little bit.
In some of its themes and decisions, and Anthony Apali is great in it, and he plays a criminal. And there's like murders that happen, and and there's some LGBT stuff in the movie too. And some like acceptance stuff. That's stuff that's like, it wasn't handled awfully, and but it hasn't aged. No, it hasn't aged too well because they're playing it for laughs, but also it's not completely. It's not malicious in its intent. Yeah, I think it's like it's not the most awful thing. It could have been handled better, but at the end of it, it's like, oh, that wasn't too bad. Yeah. It's a good, especially because like I had seen I feel like I'd seen the cover of the VHS or the DVD or the poster so many times with Steve Martin. He's got the Christmas hat and he's like wrapped up in Christmas lights, I think.
Yeah, it's famous. Yeah.
Or is he? No, he's not.
He's in like a suit.
Yeah, he's got a suit and he's got the Christmas hat. But it's like, I feel like I'd seen that a million times. Yeah. But I'd never seen the movie. And I knew it wasn't particularly
groundbreaking,
like high regarded. Yeah. But it being like a Nora Ephron movie, it's like, and this is the perfect time of the year to watch it for Christmas. And it's a Christmas movie I hadn't seen. And so, yeah, even though it's a bit of a mess, it's not great. And it's not as well made as some of her other movies.
No, it feels like it's definitely on the lower budget side.
Perhaps, yeah. But it was still a fun movie that I enjoyed, and especially because, once you've seen all the classic Christmas movies, you have to start branching out. And this is one that I was actually surprised I hadn't seen, because it feels like a movie I would have seen on the TV in the 90s. Like as a kid, or like early 2000s, like as a kid, like you'd think they would have played it just... Yeah,
it's definitely, it's network TV bait. It's like Steve Martin in Mixed Nuts.
Yeah, and it's just like they just play it every year, and it's just like, oh yeah, I remember that movie. But it's one that I don't remember ever seeing on TV.
Is there a word for the vibe of Christmas network TV where you get ads every 10 minutes? Is there a word for that? Like,
I don't know.
It's that kind of movie where I could see them putting an ad in every 10 minutes.
I guess
you just have to sit there and watch it.
I guess that's just commercial TV, right?
Like
that's every movie.
TV core.
Yeah.
So first of all, me being the dummy that I am, all white people look the same to me.
Well, that's a you guys' problem.
No, to quote
you have the
Jan Silent Bob Strikes Back. You Ben Affleck.
No, that's right. Isn't that Role Models? You
white.
You Ben Affleck. Yeah.
Isn't it also in they make a similar joke in Strikes Back, don't they? Towards the end of the film.
I don't know.
I can't remember.
Anyway, regardless,
doesn't matter.
I thought for the whole time watching it, I thought that Madeline Kahn was Jessica Lange.
Yeah.
There's some similarities.
Look, that one's not as egregious as some of your other face blind moments.
Yeah. Look, at least I didn't say that she was being played by the guy who is in the Westworld TV show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or that time you thought Andy Samberg was in Black Klansman, which was wild. That one's one of the wildest ones you've ever pulled out. Yeah.
I will say Liv Schreiber in this film is absolute gold.
Yeah. He's everyone's good in the movie.
One of the reasons I like this film is because I feel like the dynamic between the different characters is really interesting. Like the dance sequence with Steve Martin and Liv Schreiber is really great. Just Liv Schreiber's character is great. The relationship of the dynamic between Adam Sandler's Louis and Liv Schreiber's Chris, fantastic. I love that so much.
Yeah.
I kind of just really dig this one. Nice. It doesn't take place. It's not like a huge sprawling film. It's very contained.
Yeah. It's almost a bottle movie. It's got a couple locations.
I kind of like the characters.
It's definitely worth watching.
I don't have that much.
It's a fun time.
There's not a whole lot to say about it, but it's just interesting.
Yeah,
it's kind of fun,
and it's in the Nora Ephron canon.
Yeah, and the Christmas canon.
Yeah,
I will say, like, Madeline Kahn is one of the funniest people on the earth. Like, just so funny.
Oh, that scene where she lets loose on the beach with the dog walker, awesome.
Oh, and the bit where she's stuck in the elevator and she's singing into that little kid's microphone, and she's just like making up, like, it was so funny. She's so good.
So go watch all these Nora Ephron movies, and I've talked about it on the show before. Also, one of her last movies, also worth your time if you haven't watched it, Julie and Julia.
Yeah. That we also talked about Michael a few weeks ago, which is another one of her movies that's not particularly well regarded, but it's a movie I used to love when I was younger. So maybe we'll revisit that as well.
Look, we'll move on. We are running out of time.
Transition from mixed nuts into Christmas movies?
Yeah. I want to start with one of the more interesting ones we've seen this year, Christmas Eve in Miller's Point. Now, I don't know if Callum got around to watching this.
No.
But I really liked it. So essentially, it's just like it's a Christmas Eve in Miller's Point with a specific family.
Yeah, it's like, seems to be set in the early 2000s, mid-2000s.
Like, it's a very simple premise.
Yeah, and it's just like a big Italian-American family getting together at Christmas time, and it just follows, I guess, the different generations in the household.
Yeah.
And
there's just the family drama, the kind of
the
atmosphere.
Yeah, and the like, you know, the dynamics of like who's married into the family and who's related, and you know, the cousin comes over and then the friends come over. Yeah, and it's just
a really interesting watch.
Yeah, it as someone who grew up around that time, it was very nostalgic, but also it just the movie did a great job. It looks and sounds nice, but it did a great job of capturing the very specific feeling of like a big family gathering.
Did you get the anxiety from it too? When it's like too many people, you're like,
yeah.
There's too much going on.
But it felt
too many questions.
It felt, you know, I've never experienced a white Christmas. I've never been to America. You know, I have Italian relatives, but we're not like a big Italian-American style family. But the movie felt very familiar. Like, it felt like I had been in this situation, especially when all the kids are downstairs playing video games, and it's like the cousins and the friends. I'm like, I've done that so many times. And then the grown-ups are upstairs and they're drinking and they're getting the food ready. and then there's the crossovers and and you know the grandmother, and it's just like it felt very familiar. And then at the same time, there's this weird dreamlike, more stylized element to the movie where
it's surreal a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little bit surreal, and the movie kind of drifts off in a unexpected direction, and it was just such a weird. It didn't feel jarring, but it was just such a weird. One of the reasons I liked it, it's such a weird mishmash of like
tones.
It's like something that felt so grounded and real, and something that I felt like I had experienced in my own life, and then something that was like a memory or a dream,
ephemeral. It's
and maybe that added to my feelings of nostalgia and familiarity, and maybe that's why it worked. For me.
Oh, and Michael Cera in this movie.
Him and Greg Turkington, who play the cops, they have their own like little they have their own subplot, which that's probably the most jarring part of the movie. Like you could cut those bits out and it wouldn't be that much, but those bits are still gold.
I did laugh though. I didn't know where that was heading. I'm not going to spoil it.
Yeah.
But there's a conversation between them closer towards the end, I think. That's amazing.
Yeah.
It was like, did you ever think kind of conversation? Yeah. Like, oh my God.
So good. Yeah, so this is this
and the story part of the movie, like, oh my God.
Oh, when they're reading.
The manuscript part of the film.
I don't want to spoil it, but...
I'm not spoiling anything.
That was a really interesting part of the movie.
Yeah. I'm like it. Yeah, it's...
But yeah, it's an
effective movie.
It's an interesting movie. Don't go in expecting a sort of fun holiday Christmas romp.
No,
it's not. It's not really a character drama. I guess it's just like an art house family drama. Yeah, it's hard to explain.
Yeah, but it's hard to explain.
It's definitely worth watching. I can imagine a lot of people not liking this. And I've seen a few reviews of people going like this is garbage.
I watched it and then I said to James, you will get something out of it. I didn't I'm not going to hype it up and say it's funny, it's whatever, but you will get something out of it.
It's definitely worth watching. Very interesting. So that's not come out in Australia yet, but that's something to keep an eye out on.
Yeah.
Because it's a weird
played at MIF, which it would have been good to see it at MIF.
Yeah, a lot of things would have been good to see at MIF, but
I guess we'll move on. I also watched Rare Exports for the first time.
Oh, I love that movie.
I don't think I like it as much as you.
Yeah.
I think it has some pacing issues for me. It drags a bit in the middle, I found.
I think the movie's so short that once it gets to the middle, you're pretty much getting right to the end. So
I guess so.
I don't know.
I found it. I found it dragged a little bit for me.
It's not a perfect movie, but it's
very different.
It's different. Like I haven't really seen.
I guess this year I've watched a few Christmas movies and they're all different. So I'm like, that's good. You know, Rare Exports is something more unique.
Yeah, every year. I try to, because I've seen all the classics, and it's like you try to branch out and you try to see all the movies you haven't seen, Christmas movies.
You have to hunt through the bargain bins.
Yeah, and that can lead to a lot of interesting places.
Is that also a euphemism? Interesting places.
Yeah, well, interesting on both ends of the spectrum.
Hot frosty.
Yeah. Oh, that's a Nathan pick. That's a Nathan.
What's interesting is you go on some streaming services. I think it could be Paramount Plus, one of them. I'm not sure. And they have like whole MCU style journeys of the same couple at Thanksgiving, at Christmas.
Yeah.
I'm just like, what is this? There's a whole cottage industry.
It's the Hallmark rom-com thing though. It's like Netflix and other streaming services and
they pump them out, the same characters celebrating Thanksgiving.
Yeah, but people love those movies, man. They make a fortune.
Yeah.
It's like a whole industry. I had no idea about it until there's two specific characters which have been in 50 films. Yeah. Well, maybe not literally, and it's but you know what I mean.
I'm just making this up, but it'll be like the Parker family Christmas, and then the Parker
Halloween.
Or like the Parker Christmas Adventure.
Yeah.
The Parker's return to Christmas. It's just like it's just like the same thing over and over and over again.
And people love
they
it.
make them. Yeah, they make them super cheaply and quickly and.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Yeah. But yeah, Rare Exports is a movie I've loved for a long time.
I like the themes. It has some like Kreml Krampus-y themes.
Yeah,
and
it's
the
like
elves the elves are interesting.
Yeah, it's a Finnish movie where I don't want to spoil anything, but it's like a darker take on Santa. Like it's like the original Scandinavian folklore version of Santa. And it's kind of a dark, weird kind of... It's got horror elements. I wouldn't straight up call it a horror movie.
Yeah, it makes me G'd up to bring out the old imported Krampus 4K I have.
Which is a movie that's not very good. I don't know why you bothered spending that much money on a 4K.
It has a special place in my heart.
But yeah, Rarix was a movie I really like. I saw it a long time ago, and I got it on DVD, I got it on Blu-ray, and I'll hope to one day have it on 4K. It's just a movie I really like. I just vibe with it. I just like it. I like some of the ideas. I like the darkness. I like the humor. I like the... Yeah, I think obviously it's not the perfect movie, but I think a lot of people I've seen like give it a hard time. I think it's just a really interesting,
definitely interesting,
unique movie.
Yeah. What are the movies that you watch every Christmas? Like, what are your go-tos?
Well, I think I've talked about this on the show before. I used to watch Die Hard every Christmas Eve, but I think around 3 years ago, I want to say, I was like, enough's enough. Like, it's too much. Like, I love that movie. I could watch it again and again and again. But I was like, I got to stop because it's getting to the point where I'm just watching it for tradition.
For habit, yeah.
And habit, yeah. And, it's great every time. But I was like, I'm going to give it a rest for a little while. So I haven't rewatched that in a while. And I've been trying to watch a new movie every Christmas Eve. Obviously, you've got, like, all the classics, Home Alone and National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation and so on. But like I said, each year I try to branch out and watch ones I haven't seen or rewatch ones I haven't seen in a while. Like Rare Exports I rewatch because you were watching it. So I watched that, for the first time in a few years. Yeah, I don't know. What else did I watch? I watched... Oh, so Friday the 13th this year was in December. So I watched a horror Christmas crossover called Silent Bite, which is not very good. It was very low budget. I kind of appreciate the effort they put in.
Should just watch the classic Black Christmas instead.
But I watched it, I think, last year or the year before, and I was like, I didn't feel like rewatching again. And that's a very bleak movie. And I was like, I thought this might be fun. It was like on Christmas Eve, like bank robbers, they rob a bank dressed as Santa Clauses, and then they go to hide out to wait for their pickup, and there's vampires there and they have to fight. But it's one of those very, very low budget movies where, but I think I appreciate the effort they put in, but I think they put their resources in the wrong sort of place.
Yeah.
It's like they could have, with similar resources, I think done much more interesting thing. Like not a lot happens in the movie, and then it just kind of ends. But that was a movie I hadn't seen before. And I watched Santa Claus is Coming to Town, the 1970 stop motion Rankin Bass classic, which I hadn't never seen that before because, I knew Rankin Bass stuff, and it's something I've been very familiar with as a stop motion fan. Two, just being like in the American pop culture, it's a big deal. But I don't know in Australia if we ever got it that much. I don't remember it too much as a kid. Mostly it was like 60s, 70s. So maybe if I asked my parents or older relatives, like if they remember anything. But yeah, I think it was more of an American thing. But last year I got they restored in 4K the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, and Frosty the Snowman. So I bought that set. And last year I watched Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, which I didn't like.
Really?
So I was very disappointed because I love that style, and I love those old little claymation stop motion figures, and I was like, this is going to be a fun time during Christmas. It's only like a half an hour short, but yeah, there's something off about it that it didn't vibe with. But this year I watched Santa Claus is Coming to Town, which is basically just a little stop motion. It's about an hour long. It's like a Santa Claus, the origin story. It's like how he got his name, how he got his suit, how he got it, why he started delivering presents. This one I enjoyed much more. It's a fun little musical kind of comedy adventure, and it's got that great Rankin Bass animation style.
I think this year I'll probably watch Scrooged again.
I rewatched that last year. I think
I'll probably watch it again.
Yeah, that's one. Yeah, that's one you can watch.
Yeah,
that's up there with the best.
Yeah,
Christmas movie.
Holdovers for me.
That was an instant classic. When that came out, I was like, this automatically goes into the canon of great Christmas movies.
Also, again, like we talked about it last year. Probably, listeners, go watch Klaus on Netflix.
That's another automatic classic.
That's a banger.
Out of like the last 10 years, that and Klaus and Holdovers are like the two instant classic Christmas movies that I can think of.
What are your Christmas classics, listeners? What do you watch every Christmas?
Yeah,
let us know.
Yeah.
That's just about all the time we got for tonight, I think. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll be back probably next week in some capacity.
Yeah, we'll figure out what we're gonna do and then upload an episode.
Listeners might notice we didn't talk about When Harry Met Sally. It's fine.
Because we spent half the episode talking about how it's the GOAT. And also Nathan and I talked about it.
Yeah, we talked about it
a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. I probably wasn't
You're too late to the party, my brother. Yeah.
We're on all the social media platforms at Tuesday Review AU. Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Newsmask, Blue Sky, Twitter, and YouTube.
Delete Twitter. It's time.
We're on Letterboxd.
Past time.
Yeah. On Letterboxd. I'm Nathan B_90.
I'm channeldrifter.
I'm Callum Tuesday.
Alan is Alan20.
Mm-hmm.
Rate us 5 stars on wherever you listen.
Yeah. Give us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen, and it'll help us out a lot. And just keep it on social media. We'll let you know what's going on with. But yeah, we should upload in next couple of weeks. Have some more Christmas movies for you.
Yeah, we'll be back next week in some capacity, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for listening, everyone. For our live listeners, have a very safe Christmas and a happy New Year.
Also, I hope listeners can hear this because the recording.
It should be okay. The board is fine.
Yeah,
it's our recording on Audacity is slow.
Yeah, just might have to boost it.
I'll boost it, and if it doesn't sound good, I can get it off the logger.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll be back next week. Adios, cousins.